Everyone, we're going to call to order the public hearing for 4:30 in accordance with RSA 41:9-A to discuss and receive input on additions and increases to fees that include recreation program fees and land use board application fees. Posted January 30th, 2024 in the upper and lower levels of Town Hall and the Madison and Silver Lake Post Office. Published in the February 1st, 2023 edition of the Conway Daily Sun. A butter application fee increase from $10 to $12.50, and Institute Recreation Program fee per sport per student fee of $35 for residents and $45 for non-residents. Any public discussion? Okay. Seeing no public discussion. Any comment? I don't know.
Would you like some?
Well,
We got 10 minutes to
We
fill.
got 10 minutes to waste.
we're gonna have to wait 10 minutes before the next one.
Okay, we're just trying to recoup some of our expenditures for equipment and things of that nature, as well as deter people from using sports as a daycare facility. Trying to entice people that are actually interested in playing to play. But,
And it helps push the recs toward being more self-sustaining.
yep.
And basically the people who are using it are supporting it as opposed to the general taxpayer having to pay for programs that they're not necessarily using.
Can you say their name?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't even think. Yeah, because we're not the town. Well, did you ask?
No,
Okay.
they pretty much summed it up.
The application fee for the
A butter application.
butter application fee, that's mostly because it costs so much to have a certified mailing is $8.69. We still need some money for envelopes and the time of the administrator to process them and paper and that kind of thing, so it gives us a little bit more of a cushion.
Yeah, the postal fee more than doubled in just 10 years, so, for the certified mail. And this is a town meeting, correct? This, the actual change.
Oh, no, you guys can vote on that tonight.
Great.
If you want to accept those changes, you can make a motion and then it can go into effect.
I have a motion for the acceptance of the butter application fee increase and the rec program fee per sport per student fee.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So passed. And now we have 6 minutes until the next
Thank
hearing.
you. I'll close it.
And we will close the 4:30 public hearing on the butter application and rec program fee. At 4:34. Everybody take a break. Can't start the next one until 4:40.
Is it this what happens?
Well, but you have to.
Yes. You're fine.
Yeah, actually, Sean was asking, like, Cordell and I talked about it, and then he said, "I have to think about it for a minute," and then neither one of us got back together. And I
Okay,
just
you know
think
where they
it's
are.
the time of year, he's been working for the town blood warrants and all that stuff, so it's not gonna talk.
Just make sure you give that door a good close, otherwise it makes it hard to set the alarm.
Your office, so.
Town reports published yet?
Not yet. We're hoping it'll be done by the end of this week, so we're hoping.
It's not on.
It should be available online, I believe, next week, hopefully. To have a town report.
Yep. That would be-
Hopefully.
Hard copies.
Hard copies
Oh, yeah, by
next
the
week.
end, by the end of the month.
By the end of the month.
Yeah, I got one proof back so far, and we've been through that with a couple little changes, and I'll send that back.
Yeah, actually. You ever go to a Patriots game at Gillette?
Nope, only ever went to a concert. Yeah.
At some point, everybody's standing around, nobody's called a timeout, clock's not running, nobody knows what the hell's going on, it's a TV timeout. That's what it feels like.
I went to a game at Schaefer Stadium.
Say that too loud.
I don't know if I'm that old.
You're barely old enough to see Gillette, let alone Foxborough. I'm not old enough for Schaefer, I know.
I would say it was 1976.
Yeah,
Probably when my dad had season tickets.
really.
Got to go to one.
So the Yankees at the old Yankees.
I watched them there too, it was a great ballpark, especially dressed in Red Sox red.
Mickey Mantle was still playing what I saw.
Shouldn't say that too loud.
And public hearing for 4:40 PM to discuss and receive input on proposed amendments to the budgeting ordinance posted January 30th, 2024 in the upper and lower levels of Town Hall and the Madison and Silver Lake Post Office, published in the February 1st, 2024 edition of the Conway Sun. Apparently the real discussion on it was, go ahead, you had, was it roughly for the, to clarify the appointment of, to fill open positions?
Well, the original wording from was from 2021, and it was confusing as to what the appointment was the appointment just till the next election, or if it was, for instance, a 3-year term and there were 3 years to, 2 more years to fill, was it to the end? So we went through a couple of rounds with the lawyer, but I see that you're final wording is different from what we left the ABC with, and it added phrases such as, shall elect an officer for the full term or the balance of the unexpired term, as the case may be. And the original wording that we had as we left was just for the balance of the unexpired term, and I assume that this has gone through another revision by lawyers or something.
No, I hope I didn't put the,
Well, I have what we,
Line through the wrong thing.
I have what we, it was in December that we, the last wording we had, the appointee shall serve until the position may be placed on the next official ballot at the upcoming annual town meeting, at which time the voters shall elect an officer for the balance of the unexpired term, which we thought was very simple and straightforward, but I see that there's some,
Then,
you've added, shall be elected for full term or the balance of the unexpired term, and I thought maybe you'd gotten that recommendation from a lawyer?
no, nothing other than what was discussed at the meeting. I don't know if I pulled the wrong.
Well, maybe I have the wrong one, but the last one I had was December was when we passed it, and.
Right, and that's what I thought. I thought that was the version that I took from.
Do you want to see what I have in our,
George, can you
I just,
clarify?
well, I think this is the more common language, and the reason is that if someone leaves the committee and their term ends simultaneous with this election, then in fact you are electing them for the full term. And if there's still more time left on the departed person's term, then you're simply electing them for the unexpired term. So I actually think this is clearer than having it simply say the unexpired term. Right? If the person leaves, shortly before town meeting and their term is ending anyway, then they'd be elected to a full term, and that's what the last phrase, as the case may be. So I think this is, I've seen this language elsewhere for other people's unexpired terms, so I think this is good language.
well, that was my only comment, and I'm fine, I just thought that maybe you'd gotten a second
No.
opinion on it, but.
No, but I understand what you're saying because it's not what the committee.
So, but I think it has the same meaning and the same outcome as what we had discussed, so it's just a matter of language, and not being a lawyer sounds okay right now.
Okay. Any public comment on the, yep.
we're done with the organization section. It looks like,
Oh, yeah, state your name, please, I'm
sorry,
sorry.
Joy Gray. So it looks like it aligns a lot with the RSA for budget committees. I don't know if this is the appropriate time or place, but where would we consider aligning with 3215 Roman numeral 5 that talks about incompatibility of offices with the budget committee? Because I do think we follow it for the most part, but incompatibility of offices would mean that department heads, employees, certain offices that would appear incompatible because they'd be advising on their own budget if they were sitting on the budget committee. So again, I don't know if this is the time to have a conversation about that, or this would be a later time.
I believe it'd be a later time. This is something that has already been will be placed on town meetings.
It is on there. Well, there is a warrant article already for
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
yeah. Any other discussion? Seeing no discussion, I will close the 440 public hearing, and everybody gets another 4 minutes to relax. 4:50 PM, public hearing in accordance with RSA 41:8 dash small c to discuss the proposed change in the size of the Board of Selectmen to 5 members, posted February 7th, 2024, in the upper and lower levels of Town Hall and the Madison and Silver Lake post offices, published in the February 8th edition of the Conway Sun. Any comment? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Joy Gray. As the petitioner, I figured I'd give some rationale behind it. So I think there are obvious challenges with having a select board of just 3 people. 2 people is a quorum, 2 people is a meeting. Expanding to 5 obviously removes that restriction. 2 people who always see things the same way are basically making all the decisions, for an entire town. So adding more people helps, diversify opinions. And there's a lot of work to be done as a select board. And I think 3 people carrying that workload can create a bit of a bottleneck in getting things done. So benefits of opening it up to 5 members is that, obviously 2 is no longer a meeting. Bringing more people would bring more diversity of backgrounds, more diversity of experience, bring different perspectives, fresh ideas, different approaches to problem solving. Budget committee is at least 5 members plus 2 alternates. Different perspectives, a broad detailed analysis of health insurance because of one person's background and experience. Another, a clearer presentation of the capital improvement plan. Another focus on transparency. So I think having the different perspectives helps helps things just be more efficient. Also with the diversity of skill sets, you can get more done. On the rec committee, we have focus on the sports, another on events, another on team programs, another on communications, and having so many different people with so many different specializations, again, just lets a group of people get a lot more accomplished. 5 selectmen would allow us to reach more people in the community. It would engage more of the community. It would encourage community involvement, and it helps build our Madison community. And nearly every other board in town is 5 or more, so this would be commensurate with that. It wouldn't take effect until next March's election. There's no money associated with this item. And any money would be part of the budget for next year. Any stipends or discussion would be part of next year's budget process. There's no money this year. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Yes, sir.
Mike Bayou, I agree with a lot of what you said. I wrote down some ideas. There will be some redundancy here. I think it's forward thinking, not talking about anything from the past, just moving forward in a positive line and what would be in maybe the best interest of the town and diversity of opinion. Sharing the town's work. Currently, decisions are made by too few. Decisions and responsibilities for town progress are made by too few. New insights into the handling of the town's affairs. Less work for the current board. More divergent thoughts, new ideas. And I would think it would be a major step forward in terms of positive, in terms of community development. More people involved. I thought about the money too. I did Google and to see what other towns pay selectmen. If I'm doing a job and they pay me this, of course I'm going to take that amount, but Conway and Tamworth both pay $3,000. So I thought Madison might, if we're working with the current budget that we have for selectmen, maybe we'd pay $4,000 and we'd have 5 persons earning $4,000, so it would cost us $20,000 a year. I think we're currently spending $21,000, correct me if I'm wrong. So I think it's a very concerned area it's a lot of work for 3 people to do. The idea of a quorum of 2, I didn't think of that. I think that's an important point. So I'd love to see it go to 5.
Any other discussion?
I'd like to echo everything my husband said.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Marcia McKenna, I also agree with the points that have been made today, that it would be a benefit to the town to move to 5 selectmen.
Yes, ma'am.
Nicole Nordland, I agree. It's a great idea. Move to 5 selectmen. It's time.
Yes, ma'am.
Fred Slater, I echo all that. I think that we need, again, more people to be able to spread the wealth. And hopefully there'll be enough people to actively pursue those new chairs.
Any other discussion? Adam?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a bad idea sitting on the other side of the table. I still think it's a bad idea. I mean, one of the major subject that's been brought up this entire year, which has been very contentious from both sides, has been transparency, and you're talking about making it worse. The idea of a quorum being 3 instead of 2 means that 2 can talk, and then 1 can talk to another, and then 3 people can lock the other 2 out. I mean, I've watched Tamworth run for quite some time, and it's a mess. Conway's not really comparable given their size. It's a completely different animal, but
But right now, in 2 talk, and that's the meeting, 2 talk, and that's the decision. At least if you had 2 talking, it would no longer be the decision makers.
Correct, but if two members discuss, that's not a violation of, it's not a meeting, and then these 2 discuss, and it's not a meeting, so you've had 3 people basically discuss something that can then lock the other 2 out at a meeting.
It's a lot more effort to do that.
Well,
it's not.
but
though.
it can be done.
If you just, I mean, the voters are going to do what the voters are going to do, but if you have time, take a minute and watch what goes on in Tamworth, do some research into what goes on in towns with 5 selectmen. It's not great.
Any other discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Bonnie Slater.
Yes, ma'am.
I think it depends on the people
Oh, sure.
and
Of course it does.
the meshing.
Absolutely. Yes, John?
I have just one really short little thought. I've been selectman since 2000. I've only had someone run against me 3 times. Doing the job is far more difficult from this side of the table. I mean, I had 2 people in my face at the transfer station this week who clearly did not know what they were talking about. That's what's not taken into account. That's all I got.
Paul Littlefield,
Yes, sir.
East Shore Drive, and I think it's a bad idea, and I think that staying with the board of 3 is the way that we should go. We're not as big as Conway, we're a small town, and you talk about diversity. That's why we have a budget committee, that's why we have a planning board, that's why we have these other boards to help advise the selectmen and help them in these areas. They have their department head of the public works, and they've got people under them that are advising them. So I think that, you know, you've got the chance to make this work. And we're not as big, we're not that big. We're not as big as Conway, we're a small town. And so that's just my opinion. And I had originally thought, I didn't check on what the stipends are, but if you add 2 more stipends, everybody's trying to cut the budget and cut taxes. Now you're gonna add some more. It's not much, grant, they don't get paid enough for what they do anyway, so I'm not suggesting that, but just another point.
Anyone else?
I just have a simple, obviously, I'm opposed to anything that's bigger when it comes to government, so that's just to start with. But first, you can't compare Madison to Conway in any way. They do have a 5-member board of selectmen, but they're also a town manager form of government, which is completely different. Their selectmen aren't the same as the selectmen in Madison. They have different function because of the town manager office, so it's a different form of government to start with. The only one you could compare us to locally is Tamworth, and it's a crapshoot depending on who you talk to. The people that I know, natives of Tamworth, aren't in favor of it. They weren't, and they aren't, and they don't like the way it's going. But that's neither here nor there when it comes to Madison. Logistically, if this were to pass, the selectman's office as it is today would have to cease to exist because there's not room enough in there for 2 more people. So you'd have to do some kind of reformation of the office space or eliminate it one way, shape, or form, because you can't do it in the space that you have. Some alteration would have to be made to the building, or eliminate the physical office to satisfy the requirements of building codes, et cetera, and so on. So just something to think about. It really pains me to see a warrant article, and yes, there's no dollar figure in the warrant article, but it's gonna cost us. There's money involved. Paul mentioned it. Whatever you do with the selectmen's stipends, there's money involved. It's not a money article, but there's money involved. And if we had to do an alteration to the building, that's big money.
Yes, ma'am.
Mike actually brings up a really good point, but kind of in the converse. 3 selectmen shouldn't be sharing an office. I think that's kind of a bad practice to have people who aren't supposed to be speaking to each other outside of a meeting sharing an office space. I mean, I'm sure you stagger and all that, but it just doesn't seem to make sense to have selectmen who aren't supposed to be outside a meeting together sharing an office anyway.
So what are you gonna do with 5?
Is there a reason that they have to have an office together in town hall?
Well, if they're gonna do work for the town, they need a place to do work. You can't expect them to have an office in their house. Some of us do.
I certainly don't.
Yes, ma'am, you had something?
I would say that, I think there's validity in that there are other boards that are supposed to advise, and go to the selectmen with their ideas and suggestions, because they too are representing the voters. However, what I've witnessed, and it's more of late than the first 20 years I lived here, is, the advice hasn't been being taken, and I don't think the boards are as effective when, and it's not, I haven't witnessed any 2-to-1 votes by the select board. And even at the suggestion of all the other elected boards, I mean, I'm mostly familiar with the budget committee, obviously, but the budget committee I witnessed this year especially, asking for changes, asking for reductions, and it was voted 3-0 to ignore them, ignore every suggestion. And that's why I feel like I support the 5-member, because hoping for diversity, that whether or not the changes get made, at least somebody would raise their hand against, based on what the budget committee might have been suggesting, saying, well, the other ones, nobody wants to put in the work to make the change, to reduce the budget, to reduce healthcare, whatever, all the other things we've already talked about ad nauseum, then at least the townspeople can see that alternative vote and feel like they're being represented, because I haven't felt represented by my select board in the last few years. I guess that's all I have to say. I agree that there's advisory boards, but I'm not seeing that the select board is taking the advice.
Sorry, just kind of thinking again about the office space piece. The selectmen don't have office hours, is that correct?
Correct.
So office space isn't necessarily needed except to, I don't know. I mean, again, I've worked from home for 12 or 13 years, so it's second nature to me to work from home. So I guess what is the requirement or need to have an office here in the building?
I mean, I'm not personally gonna sit down at home and go through the budget every year with my 6-year-old nagging me in the ear. I won't do it. I mean, it works for some people to work from home, but I won't do it.
But I was a selectman for 12 years, and there's documents that you would need to review and look at and so forth that can't leave this building and go to your house. Just period. Can't.
I mean,
So there needs to be a space for you to review that type of material.
There's a bin up there that I go through every time I come in here from all walks of Carroll County, Madison committees, all things. Those would either need to be uploaded digitally, which creates more work for town personnel. Some of them can't be uploaded, some of them can't leave here. It's just not a good idea, but.
Yes, sir.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chairman. My name is Bill Dempster. I'm neutral on this. I just have a question. regarding this is that with all the little towns would have selectmen as their executive board. Have we looked at, or has anybody looked at the similarities or same sizes as Madison? You know, maybe Colebrook or maybe Pittsburgh or maybe some of these other small towns to see what size executive board they have and what the flavor is in that town. I mean, it seems to me we need to do a little more research before we, and that's just me, before jumping into this.
The vast majority of small towns in the state of New Hampshire are 3-member boards. I don't have a number, but the vast majority.
Mr. Real, I mean, there's gotta be 400 small towns.
Well, it was 100
That's a
and-
lot. That's a big-
267.
267.
How many?
267.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a big database.
You know,
But there are very small towns with 5-member boards. I'm talking, there's a town, I can't remember the name, 300 people, 5-member board of selectmen. So you got both extremes.
You don't have to get up to say anything.
Yeah, I agree with Bill.
Any other discussion? We're running over on the time that we set for it. We said about 10 minutes. But, yes,
Bonnie Slater. Is this cut and dry forever, 5 members?
No.
Or can it be changed? If it doesn't work, could it be changed back or more or whatever?
Yes.
Of course.
Same statutory process could be followed in reverse.
Right.
Exactly.
Last thing from me, it's, generally I want to get on the record that I'm opposed to this process. The statutory, it makes no sense that we're having this public hearing tonight because this article is going to be number 3 on your ballot, March 12th, regardless of anything that was said here tonight. It's already printed on the ballots. So article number 3, yes or no, up to you.
But it was a good thing to have the conversation. It was a good thing for people to share their perspectives together in a room. Because we wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to do so before the election on Tuesday, on March 2nd.
any other discussion? Seeing no other discussion at 5:09, we'll be closing this public hearing. And in a moment, we'll be opening to the select board meeting. Ready? Okay, it is 5:09. I call to order the February 20th, 2024 Selectmen's meeting. First order of business will be the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the minutes of February 6th, 2024. You gentlemen had a chance to look those over?
Make a motion to accept the minutes as printed.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. So approved. Approval of non-public minutes from January 9th, 2024.
Motion to accept as printed.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. To unseal non-public minutes from January 9th, 2024.
Motion to accept.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to, to unseal the non-public minutes of January 23rd, 2024.
Motion to accept.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And approval of the manifest. Sorry. Manifest for February 20th through February 26th, 2024. Payroll, $32,064.88. Payroll liabilities, $9,742.74. Accounts payable, $37,576.89. The elementary school, $250,000. New Hampshire retirement, $17,690.20, for a total of $347,074.71.
Motion to accept the manifest.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Before we start public comment, I'd like to, show of hands, how many people would like to comment during public comment, because it's 15 minutes, and if I have to divide the time up, I will have to. So, how many people are planning on speaking during public comment? Raise your hand.
You want me to count as public comment, or do you want to take?
No, you're right.
No, you've got your own,
Okay.
you've got your own time
All right,
slot.
thanks.
Will there be any public comment? Seeing no public comment, we will move on to discussion items and new business. George, you're on.
Well, you're on, actually.
Yes, sir.
So, the selectmen at an August meeting wanted to see an alteration to the moderated rules for town meeting. Perhaps it would be good for you to explain why, and then we can go back and forth a little bit.
The selectmen attempted to address the town meeting prior to this change, in which the very first part of the very first order at the meeting was to reduce part of the budget by a certain amount, which then, once it was voted on and accepted, was then kicked back to the selectmen the very next day to figure out where that money was going to come from. So the selectmen attempted to write an amendment, if someone had such a motion, that they would also provide where that money is going to be coming from or removed from. And apparently, that's not something that we can do.
That's correct.
So, how's that, George?
With all good intentions.
Absolutely.
It was good intentions, but apparently
So two pieces of information and then any other feedback you guys might have. So there's a history of this in Madison and probably in almost all the towns around the state. Henry Forrest, who passed away recently, one of our great town meeting attendees, a longtime selectman, Henry got up year after year for quite a few years and moved to reduce the budget by $100,000. And year after year he lost, and he irritated the selectmen. And for exactly the reason you said, we've worked all these hours putting together this budget. Budget committee works on stuff, and here you are just picking a number out of thin air and throwing it out there on the table. And Henry's response consistently was, gee, you guys know more than I do, but this is more than the town needs to spend, and you guys can find $100,000 out of your multi-million-dollar budget. And he lost pretty much all the time, and probably all the time when he attempted to make those motions, in part because the voters shared the selectmen's perspective that it's not reasonable to just pick a number and reduce the budget by that amount. So there's a history of this, and it has faded off into history, and then it came back last year when I was out.
Thanks, George.
So please blame me in any case for it. So just a little bit of history, number one. Number two, if somebody does stand up and say, gee, the budget's $1 million and I want to get rid of fireworks, some evil person says, I want to get rid of fireworks, I want to read, go ahead and vote right now if you want, but, and I want to reduce the budget by $5,000. That's not the motion they make. The motion they make is to reduce the bottom line of the budget by $5,000 to $995,000. And it's essentially a recommendation on the part of at least that voter, and perhaps supported by the vote of the townspeople, that be where the cut is to be made. But you, the selectmen, aren't obligated to make the cut at that point. So if you tell someone, gee, you can't make a cut to the bottom line, and then you say, well, in fact, that's exactly the motion you have to make, which is a cut to the bottom line. That's not a good way to run a meeting. That creates confusion, conflict, and so on. So that's sort of number one. And then number two, the townspeople recognize that their recommendations for where cuts should come from are advisory only. whether they're captured in the actual vote and as part of the motion, or whether they're simply recorded in the minutes, they recognize that you folks have the authority to utilize that bottom line budget as you see fit. So I don't see any logical or legal basis for me to attempt to place a restriction like that on them anyway. Having said that, whether it's me as moderator, because I have done it in the past, or whether it's you as selectman, asking the person and put them on the spot to defend the dollar amount that they're proposing and to explain where they think it should come from, and the minutes reflecting that information is a perfectly reasonable thing to do. I've done it in the past, but forcing them to say, gee, here are the 5 areas where I think this cut should be made is not something that we can do. And I think I'll stop there. I think it's perfectly appropriate for you to express some sadness at the fact that you've worked all these hours and here's somebody picking a number out of thin air. That's an appropriate pushback on your part, and I do think the voters often will respond to that. But having said that, not allowing it, I don't know way to do that.
Our big rub, George, was the fact that it was it Article 3?
Yeah.
So we could only adjust those lines by that amount. And it wasn't the bottom line at the bottom of the budget, it was...
Okay, so I have an overlaying level of confusion, having heard from different lawyers different things. So you folks, I'm not pointing fingers, I'm just saying, you folks decided 3 or 4 years ago to take the great big budget that was all in one warrant article and divide it into the 3 warrant articles. And I've had a lawyer say to me, oh, no problem. You can move, you the selectmen can move monies between those 3 warrant articles. I've also had a lawyer say to me, no, you can't do that. At this moment in time, Cordell Johnston, who is a paragon of virtue and a smart lawyer, what is he telling you as far as your ability to move money between the 3 articles? You can't do it.
That we could not.
Okay, and good, I agree with that. But we had a lawyer at the meeting 3 or 4 years ago say, oh yeah, no problem, you can move it back and forth. And I think that underscores my job as moderator, which is largely educational and informative. And I've got to make sure that the voters, as I look around the room, understand that, well, if you're dealing with the $2 million hunk, that's one thing. If you're dealing with a $700,000 hunk and you're taking a shot at 70 grand, you're really restricting the flexibility that the selectmen have and the hit that the town will take in terms of a service or something that's going to be done. So I do think there is a job on my part to make sure that the education is clear on that and that there's fear that we're tying your hands in a way that will hurt the community by losing that much money out of the budget. Having said that, it's their right.
Sure.
That's absolutely their right to do this.
I appreciate
think part of the pushback, though, is that we did exactly what you were saying and asked the person that made the motion to point their finger at where they think we should take the money, and we got no response. And that's kind of where the problem lied.
Yeah. And that's part of the art form of the town meeting. So there are a number of times when a particularly contentious individual at the microphone is saying, I want the selectmen to answer this question. And I have to point out to them, I can't force the selectmen to answer a question. This is an opportunity, if they have a comment or feedback to give you, they can, but they can't be forced to do that any more than your request of a voter at the microphone to explain where the money's going to come from is something that can be forced on them. But it's a political process, and if standing up in front of the town and proposing a significant cut to the bottom line of the budget, the person can't provide any feedback to you in terms of where that's going to go, that's going to be a tougher thing to pass. It's as simple as that. If they have specific things where they believe the cut should occur, and the town's voting on that, that's everyone's preference. And one of the good things is that the selectmen, I think, consistently for 38 years, for 38 years, have really followed the voters on this. When they do get up and say, I want $10,000 to come out of this, as much as it might annoy the selectmen to have to take it out of something they really think is a good expenditure, they do what the town asks them to do, even though they have the flexibility to utilize the funds as the bottom line number as they see fit. So, yeah, it's a political process. It's not a legal process, and it's one where utilizing the lack of explanation on the part of the amender and their inability to defend the specific number they're suggesting makes it harder, should make it harder for them to pass that.
I just got a comment on that, and I kind of agree with it. Part of the issue is we've got, you got the total warrant, you got the operating budget, and you've got all the special warrant articles. It's easier to dump a special warrant article. Like, if you don't want to pave the roads of town, fine, it's $250,000, have a nice day. But when you take $72,000 out of the operating budget, which is a much smaller number, part of the operating budget, that really hurt, because we sat down after last town meeting, and going like, okay, let's cut that line by 10 grand, let's cut that one by 5. We're gonna run over. We run over.
And you have the opportunity to convey that information. The townspeople listen. I mean, yeah, there are people who don't listen, but the vast majority of people will. And I'm optimistic, in particular with the work that you do and the level of detail you explain to the town, and the budget committee, which has gotten more into it and is, I think, a more informed budget committee than perhaps we've had at times in the past. Not always easy to have that back and forth, but you've got a bunch of well-informed people up in the front of the room. My hope would be that the voters would respect both the level of effort and the level of knowledge that you folks have, and would be pretty hesitant to, again, pick a number out of thin air.
Well, and I think the sway of the room, the vote was because that suggestion came from that side of the table. Well, it was unfortunate, but it's his right. Was his right.
It is, and I wasn't there.
I understand.
I was in tough shape.
Yes, you were.
So,
I think it carried more weight than if someone in the audience had stood up and said the same.
You know, that's probably true, but I also think it's harder to defend. You know, for me as an individual voter, if someone who's spent all the time that the budget committee has in reviewing this, and they can't defend a specific number, that makes that, from my perspective, less effective.
Okay.
Leave it at that.
Okay.
Thank you, George. Thank you very much, George.
Well, thank you. And looking forward to seeing you all.
Absolutely. Stay healthy.
Will do, definitely.
Mr. Bergeron, dam update. That dam.
I'm going to sit in Mr. Epstein's chair and hope that he left some wisdom behind.
Well,
This is warm. It is warm, I'm sure. George is a warm guy. I thought I'd take the opportunity to, let's close out where we are with the dam project for the moment. And dam is in D-A-M, not D-A-M-N. So as you know, we completed basically a 4-part study analysis of the dam. And it had good results in some areas and, not the grandest of results in others. I guess the overall good news is that the dam, in all likelihood, if Mother Nature doesn't pummel us, is not going to fail anytime in the immediate future. And that came as part of that engineering assessment report, which was delivered back in early December. The bad component of everything came also within that report, and that being that we need in 2024 dollars, somewhere between 670, excuse me, somewhere between $676,000 and $858,000 worth of repairs. So we talked about this a little bit, and my belief is your plan may be to not look at this in 2024, perhaps bond it in 2025, maybe 2026. The overall, if we have a concern, I would say that's fine, just don't push it out too long, because that thing's not gonna heal, okay? It's not gonna get any better. And right now, you know, when we look at these, you look at them in terms of 50-year storms and 100-year storms. And many people don't realize when we say a 100-year storm, it doesn't mean that if we have a 100-year storm in 2024, we're not gonna have another one for 100 years. It means it's a 1% chance. So conceivably, you can have them, you know, you could have 2 in a year. I believe in my lifetime, and I'm not 65 times 100 years old, whatever it is, I think I'd live through 4. So, you know, we need to be cognizant of that. And quite frankly, we all know from last summer, the weather's not getting any better. So just be aware that, you know, let's not push it out too long. And then every time we push this out, the other thing that I'm not liking is every single year, we're seeing construction costs go up. I've been at this every day of my life since 1978, and I will repeat what a friend of mine said to me recently, and that was, Sean, we've never seen such greed in this business. The numbers are just absurd. New houses we're building at the Ridgeline project in Conway, first step starter homes, and the numbers are over $400 a square foot for a starter house. Okay. The average, if you're building a decent home right now, $600 a square foot. There's houses on Lake Winnipesaukee that are now going at $1,500 a square foot. And that's just for the structure. And that's where construction costs are going. And if anybody says to me, when are they gonna go down? I'm not planning. So be prepared for a cost increase every year, please. The better parts of all of this, the hydrologic and the hydraulic report, for the 50-year storm, which is the requirement, that's where the dam had to be analyzed. For the 50-year storm, our dam would have 1.1 foot of freeboard. We have to have 1 foot. So we snuck through. We still stay at what they call a low hazard dam. And the other thing that was good, the breach analysis, which was that last document, January 20th, should that dam fail, under normal circumstances, the culvert on West Shore, that's East Shore, the culvert on East Shore would survive, the culvert on Ossipee Lake Road would survive, and fortunately that large wet lowland area that really exists between East Shore and Ossipee Lake, it would flood, but we're not going to cause a great amount of harm in there. So for all intents and purposes right now, we have no reason to think that this is not going to remain a low hazard dam, which fortunately is very good for all of us. But I just can't emphasize enough, let's not, and I understand the dollars are a problem, but let's not put off these repairs too long, because it's replacing this thing. Think of it this way, if it's going to cost us close to $1 million to repair it, I don't even want to go into replacing it. Okay? So.
Well, appreciate the update. Maybe something that we looked at for 2025 was a bond.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sooner the better.
Okay, so from the perspective of my office and MSK Engineering, we're closing the book on this thing for now.
Yes.
Okay, we're all wrapped up. And thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Under old business, the building permit ordinance. I think we're getting close on the wordage, Bob?
I hope so.
I like it.
Okay. So what did we,
I think the only one we were messing around with was the substantial improvement line.
so we,
And I think what we have in there now that Linda and Bob came up with is a good compromise between what I was looking for and meeting with Bob's concerns. I don't know if Bob still has concerns with this verbiage or not, but.
so there is no money amount, or no, there is, sorry. 5,000, is that what it is?
Yeah. So any substantial improvement has to meet the criteria of $5,000.
And I know-
This definition was basically for projects that were no footprint change projects
Oh, yeah.
to the structure. So the previous limit was if it exceeded, if the project cost, including labor and materials, was over $1,000, you needed a permit. What this is suggesting is to raise that limit to in excess of $5,000 before you need a permit.
I know it makes it a little bit more difficult for you in estimating, but I think it's fair to the town.
Right, well, material costs now are
Yeah.
extreme and contractor costs have gone up. So it makes sense to raise it. It makes it a little more difficult for me if somebody was trying to get away with something, which is a small percentage. But for somebody to say, well, that doesn't cost $5,000, so I don't need a permit, that's harder for me to estimate versus $1,000, which is very simple nowadays especially. But that does make sense. This also, so what was exempt from permits was painting and carpeting. This is suggesting to add a little bit to that. So if you're repairing or replacing materials in kind of what was already there, so let's say, for example, a pressure-treated deck, you're replacing pressure-treated decking, that would be exempt, as long as you put pressure-treated back. If you're gonna change it to composite, that may be different because the value is different. So there's a suggestion there for, as an example, decking, siding, roofing, drywall, if you're replacing in kind, which is the same materials.
You were talking about painting,
Painting is already exempt, painting projects. You didn't need-
inside and out.
Right, you didn't need a building permit for that.
Did you ever need a building permit for that?
Not since I've been here.
Want your money back, John?
Did you
No,
get
I don't.
one?
I just had somebody go one side of me down the other about, I had to get a building permit for painting. I said, I don't think you did.
Yeah, that was.
Yes, I did. And I
That
think
was a
you
few
probably
months
know who-
ago, there was a complaint, they never contacted me to find out about it.
No, they contacted me.
Right, right, the permit was not issued for painting at all, it was for structural.
I was back.
Yeah, yeah, so we got that one straightened out. But
Okay.
this one, you know, it says at the last sentence, repair or replacement of pre-existing non-mechanical, mechanicals are electrical, plumbing, and gas. In-kind materials and features such as decking, siding, roofing, drywall. They're exempt from this definition provided there's no interior or exterior change to the structure's footprint or floor plan. So if you decide to remodel the inside and create bedrooms and change walls, things like that, you do need a permit. But if you're just, say you had a water leak and you got a lot of drywall damage or interior damages, and you're replacing it as it was with the same materials, you wouldn't need a permit, as long as you don't exceed that dollar amount.
Well, I think you guys did a great job on that wording, because I know we were stuck on that, and I like that, what you have now. Yeah?
I'm all set.
I think it can go the way it stands, then.
Well, that was an old board of selectmen back then.
Yeah. Alrighty. Adam, you have a list?
Nope. No list. No list for me today.
John?
Very little, other than the fact that we got 2 new containers coming to the transfer station, delivering them tomorrow. Gives us some backup when we need it. That's it.
And I have nothing. Linda?
At the last minute, I got the invoice for the chassis part of the new truck that we're supposed to get this week. The leasing company had to do a little bit of paperwork. They weren't able to get me the disbursement number 3 paperwork. It would be for $82,059. And I was hoping that you guys would agree to sign that out of session when I do get it, because it would make us, we have to pay them for the truck. We'll get it, and it'll be another 2 weeks before we'll be able to do
You
that.
covering that?
Is that,
It's not on the
that's
agenda.
not, that's not the other invoice? Oh, okay.
Yeah, the one we voted on last month.
Oh. It is here.
Linda, in our book, we've got subject regarding STR fines?
Yeah, no, that wasn't,
We're
nothing
not gonna
came
cover
of
that
it.
tonight?
No, nothing,
Oh.
there was no new information.
Okay.
We're still waiting on. What did I see?
Oh, and your signature items, there was a disbursement,
Right.
and this would be in addition to that.
Who's? Right, this is the plow truck.
And that's the plow. They're both for the plow.
That's the bot, the
Chassis.
basic.
That's, yeah, that's the chassis, which even Mark from Taxes and Leasing thought it was odd that I sent him the invoice for that before I sent him the chassis.
Okay. Yeah, I think, make a motion to vote out of session on it, and it does come in, correct?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Anything else, Lynn?
No thanks.
Michael?
Just literally today, the ballots for town voting were delivered. Didn't open the box yet because I have to schedule it for tomorrow so I can count them. But, so the actual ballots are in, so anybody that's requested an absentee ballot, maybe by after lunchtime tomorrow, I should have them all counted and tabulated and everything, and you should be able to come in and pick up your absentee ballots if you're getting ready to jet off to Southern Points. On the fire department side, we did a training exercise down by the fire hydrant that we do pretty much every year, but it got me to thinking a lot of people slowed down. We didn't have any emergency lights on or anything like that, but I don't know, maybe in the future I might talk to the police chief to see if we could maybe get
Put the electric sign.
the little electric sign that says training in process or something like that.
Nobody's in the water.
Was this Sunday?
Saturday.
Saturday morning.
Saturday. Okay.
But we did a classroom portion on Thursday night, and then did some practical evolutions on Saturday. The lake's cold. It is cold, but it went well. Nobody got hurt in the training, and the skills were
Good.
keeping them sharp. Hopefully we don't need to use them like every other. But we're ready to respond if we need to, and hope we don't have to.
Anything else, Mike?
Last thing, everything in the natural world is pretty dangerous right now. Snowmobile trails, if there's snow, it's ice. If you're hiking in the woods, it's ice. Be very careful. Not that we don't have any steep mountains really in Madison, but there's been some serious incidents over the weekend with people, number one, not prepared for the environment that they went to recreate in. If you do go outside, you go for a hike, I mean, if you know it's a day trip and you're gonna be just a couple hours, hey, that's great. But if you're going for a ways, pack to spend the night. If something were to happen, make sure you've got the gear to survive. Because there's nothing worse than, you know, that's a terrible way to go. Freezing to death is not recommended. And if you get hurt and can't assist yourself and you happen to be in one of our dead zones where your cell phone doesn't work, that's a bad situation to be in. So just be smart, plan ahead, let people know where you are, what, you know, the old, let them know I'm leaving at this time, I intend to be back by this time. If I'm not back by this time, come looking for me or something. Have a plan, and don't wait till after dark to let people know that you need assistance.
If you see other people turning back, the rescue that Fish and Game had to do, which was dangerous for them, that hiker passed numerous people that turned back saying it was just getting to be too bad, and that person continued on, and it was, like I say, quite an endeavor to get to him. So just, there's nothing wrong with turning around and going back and
but
Go another day.
just be careful. The environmental conditions aren't great. It's not a typical winter. It's been very strange. The ice is questionable. It's thick in places, it's thin in other places. Just be very careful, you go outside. My grandfather used to say, terra firma, the more firmer, the less terra. Stay on land, stay off the ice. He was a Navy guy too, so.
Is that it, Mike?
That's pretty much it.
Dave?
A few things. Starting off with the transfer station, John mentioned we have 2 new containers showing up tomorrow, a new compactor and a new aluminum cans container, 30-yard aluminum can container. In the last 2 weeks, I had 4 trips to Carberry, 1 trip to Eco Maine. We ordered and received a new 12-foot snow pusher for the 416 of the transfer station. That's in service now. I think you got to use it last Friday. And another biggie, we ordered covers for the open top containers, 2 of them anyway. So we're going to be keeping the snow and the water and the ice. And those mattresses are, what, 100 pounds? When they get wet, they're 300 pounds.
Yeah.
And then we get, I think one of the containers I took last week had 3 snowstorms in it. And we're paying for that. The covers were pretty inexpensive, so this is something that one guy can put on and take off, and we'll keep the snow and the water and the weather out year-round. Hoping to save some money there. The water issue at the lower garage, I replaced the pressure tank on the system, which is improved, but that water is non-potable, so we're having it tested. Maybe we mentioned this, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
We're having it tested to see what kind of a filter we need to put on the inbound side to not make it potable, but at least it's not destroying our equipment like the pressure washer that we just had to repair. We've been doing a lot of service work. We've been down on the storms, so it's helped us out a lot. In doing that, we put a vibrator on the new truck body that we got on Goob's truck, Justin's truck. It's a vibrator that shakes the frozen dirt down, sand down. It works really well. We're going to do it to the new truck coming in as well. We've had hydraulic issues. We've had a few hydraulic issues on my plow truck. Truck 3 is one of the smaller trucks. We lost the plow pump. I think that's the 2nd time that we've lost that pump. Don't know why, but we had to replace that in the middle of the storm. We're going to have a spare on the shelf. I apologize, going to back up to the containers. I built a couple steps for the recyclable container. The more vertically challenged people just were having a hard time reaching to get in there, so now they have a step up. If they don't work, we'll try to figure something else out.
No, it worked fine over the weekend.
Okay. I took the code enforcement car down to Eckhoff's. The driver's door, we replaced the hinges on the door a year and a half ago, and they're just not lined up, and to do it properly, you have to take the front fender off to get to the hinges. So they're gonna take that in on March 1st. I was hoping to touch bases with the chief. I would like to think in another year or 2 down the road, if the Charger is going to go out of service, that might make a good codes car, and let's sell that thing. So something to think about down the road. I don't know what's happening. That's, I think, the oldest cruiser you have.
It is, yeah.
Truck 6, the roll-off truck. Had a repair last week for a coolant leak. We had it up at TMS in Gorham. That was a $900 bill, but it's back in service. The new plow truck is completely built. It's been moved from HB Fairfield down to the dealer in Manchester. He's detailing it, and in the meantime, the truck that we're trading on it, the white Peterbilt, has been charged up, and we've got it all cleaned up and ready to go. So when they bring that up, they'll take the Peterbilt away. You know, hopefully this week. On the plow trucks, a couple plow trucks, we set up a plow for one of the smaller plow trucks and the pickup truck with rubber cutting edges. And they're quite thick. I'm gonna say they're probably 1.5 inches thick, cutting edges made of rubber. And what that's doing for us is the dirt roads, they're not always frozen anymore. It's often they're too soft to plow with a regular plow. It chatters, it digs in. These glide right over the road. So we put one on the pickup truck, and like I said, an 11-foot, and another one on one of the International CVs. It's an 11-foot blade, and it's been really working out well. It's not digging into the dirt, and I'll add into the other wasn't on there. We have been trying to take care of the potholes and the mess on North Division Road. It's really hard to stay on top of that.
The last time they did that road, they did a great job.
But we know that there's issues with potholes. The trucks going up there have not helped us out at all. Then we had spring conditions up on, I guess, Modoc, beginning of winter, where we had to divert traffic for an issue, and it just got beat up. So it's been an issue for us all winter, and we know it's difficult. Our 920 loader had its routine 1,500-hour service. Milton Calf came up and did that Friday. We're having a problem with our 420 backhoe here. It's been an emissions issue, and it's in, I guess, second stage, what do they call it? When it goes into
Limp mode?
Limp mode. It's in second stage limp mode. And they spent a good amount of time Friday on that. And I guess they got some parts ordered that are going to get that thing back in service for us. But that's about it.
Thanks, Dave.
All right.
Does that rubber cutting edge still work well on pavement?
I would imagine it'll probably wear it down pretty quickly. But on the dirt,
I'm just curious.
Just does not dig into the dirt, and we get a nice finish cleaning out of it, sand out, you know. It does glaze it a little bit, but we're putting sand down behind us. So
The state uses rubber ones on the highways.
Do they?
In the Freedom Shed, I know.
Yeah, that pusher has got a rubber cutting edge.
It does.
But
It
it's
does.
special.
But that's, you're going at a much slower speed.
Right, and the
too.
shoes are kind of keeping it up a little bit.
Yeah. But, so, and that helps us 10, that just takes that off our plate.
Yeah.
Because on top of the roads, we have to make sure this town hall's opened up, police department's opened up, fire department's opened up, school is opened up, library's opened up. So there's a whole lot going on after the roads are done, so. But having Eric do that for us takes quite a load off.
Yeah, it does.
Very good. Bob?
Which Bob do you want? All right. As you can see out here, we moved what we call the drug box from the inside of the office out here into the main hallway. It helps with access to anybody that needs to get rid of prescription drugs. It's not for liquids, it is just for pills only. We have had the program inside the office, so you did have to make contact with an officer. The officer had to come open up the office in order for you to get rid of that. Now, as long as the town hall is open, you can have access to the box. We did hang a camera up here for security issues, and it is secured to the floor, so we're not too concerned about theft. But and it is emptied on a regular basis, so that's easier way to get rid of the stuff rather than keeping it on the shelves.
Do you
Other
take
than that,
needles?
what's that?
Do you take needles?
We do take needles, but not in that box.
Okay.
A lot of times what we'll tell this, we have had people that have called NAST, insulin-dependent diabetics, we'll call it. And we say the easiest way to do it is to throw them into a hard plastic laundry detergent bottle before you throw them away. Other than that, we have similar ones. So the ones we get calls sometimes with people find them on the side of the road when they're out jogging, and it happens more often than you think. So we have disposal units for that sort of thing, and then once they're full, we get rid of them that way. But household ones, that's the best way to do it. All I got for this week. Bob?
I already spoke, so.
All right.
The rec department.
Yes, we have a lot going on.
Yeah.
We have a winter fun days on Thursday and Friday. So we're taking a bus. They're getting dropped off at the school. We're taking a bus over to King Pine to go tubing. On Thursday, it's the kindergartners through 4th graders that can go. And then on Friday, it's the 5th through 8th graders that will go. And just the morning, they'll be back for lunch. And then we'll do open gym style, or they can play outside of the playground and go sledding and stuff there too. So that's Thursday and Friday. It's pretty full. There are some spots left to go on Friday for the older kids, but the little kids have pretty much taken all the spaces on Thursday. Friday night we're having a boys versus girls scrimmage and a pizza party. Profile Subaru gave us a gift card to Community Market to use to have a pizza party. So that was very nice. They were one of our sponsors, so it worked out great. And the boys and girls are very competitive with each other, so it should be a pretty good game. I think the girls will win, but we'll see what happens.
They will.
We'll see. We like to get the boys going, but
Basketball.
and then basketball.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Saturday the girls have their Carroll County tournament. This past Saturday the boys had their tournament. It was awesome, so much fun. The boys played at Conway against 8 teams, and then us made 9. And then the girls will do the same in Moultonborough Saturday, so that'll be fun. Next Friday night is teen night. They will do donuts and dodgeball. It's kind of a new thing we're trying. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
So that's the 6th graders through 8th grade. Students are invited to do that next Friday night, March 1st, from 6 to 8. And then we're gonna do another trivia night on Friday, March 8th at the Village Store. We have been having so much fun with that. Madison historical trivia, sci-fi trivia,
New England sports.
New England sports trivia. So just kind of throwing a bunch of categories in. It's been a lot of fun. We encourage people to bring a dish to share, a little appetizer to share, bring your own beverage of choice, $5 suggested donation to go to the rec. I think that's it for that. And then softball and t-ball will be starting very soon. Registration will begin in March.
And summer camp planning already.
And then summer camp. Yeah, it's nuts. It's crazy,
Very good.
but fun.
Appreciate everything you're doing.
Thanks.
Pickleball.
Oh yeah, pickleball, to be
Pickleball.
announced.
Pickleball, okay. Signature items. What you got in?
Posting for your warrant, everything, I'll do that tomorrow.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you always.
I was all stressed out. Well, yeah, but I was just thinking you could have done it, tomorrow morning. I wasn't gonna tell you today how easy it was to just do it. You look like your stress level was pretty much max. I also would have done it today.
I knew I could do it.
Well, I had to wait on hold with the title bureau for 34 minutes to get the answer to a question that I already knew, just because the guy was standing there and he didn't want to take my word for it.
Nice.
Oh,
Thank God we don't have to pay for long distance.
especially if we have
Okay, we'll be going now to a non-public session for RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2, parentheses A, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, or the disciplining of any such employee, or the investigation of any charges against him or her, unless the employee affected, 1, has a right to a meeting, and 2, request the meeting to be open, in which case the request shall be granted. Poll of the selectmen?
Adam, aye.
John, aye.
Mike, aye. We are in private, non-public session.